This will be a short and simple video because this is really a straightforward topic. This video is about solving the problems with policing. So here we go. The first solution to solving the problems with the police force is all new candidates for jobs must go through stringent psychological evaluations before being considered for hiring. This way, you could screen out people who should not be police officers before they're even hired. The next thing that should be done, and this is one of the more important things, is that we should implement a licensing system to certify police officers. A strict licensing system for certifying officers must be implemented. It must have the power to revoke an officer's certification for any disciplinary/conduct reason that could possibly justify firing by police chiefs. The biggest city police chiefs of the state should be on the main licensing board. This way, not only can you remove officers who do things wrong and have measures to put that in place, and also keep them off the force, but you can prevent them from being rehired on other police forces, and also overrule badly run police departments if they need to be overruled by some other body. This is also very important. Police chiefs and commissioners must be given the power to fire officers at their discretion. Because obviously people who do the wrong thing should be fired from their job immediately. All police officers must wear body cameras, and all body cam footage that does not violate victims' privacy must be released within 2 weeks for a request. This is obvious because the public needs to know what its employees are up to, and we need to have evidence to ascertain what happened during an incident, so police bosses and the public can make judgments about what to do. So implementing these measures are the solution to the policing problems in this country. So I thought this article from Bloomberg would be something I could read that delves in more deeply into the issues with police officers. To keep bad cops off streets, states consider police licensing. Government officials in at least half a dozen states want to make it easier to end policing careers of abusive officers by making it hard for them to start fresh in new jurisdictions. Now is the time, I believe, to begin treating peace officers' certifications more like licenses, said Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. The only way the state can revoke a peace officer's certification today is if that officer is convicted of a felony, he said in unveiling a proposal to beef up statewide oversight of law enforcement. There is no mechanism in Ohio to revoke a certification for conduct that might be bad, might be horrible, but is not necessarily criminal. DeWine State is where 12-year-old Timur Rice was killed while playing with a toy gun in a park. The Cleveland officer who shot him had a prior history of misconduct in Independence, Ohio, that wasn't shared with its larger neighbor 10 miles away. After being fired by Cleveland, the officer was hired by Bel Air, Ohio police, but he rescinded his job acceptance during the ensuing media firestorm over his hiring. Occupational licensing proposals for law enforcement have been pitched in recent weeks in California, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Ohio, and Michigan. 3 of those states, California, Massachusetts, and New Jersey, along with Rhode Island, lack any statewide procedure for decertifying officers. Though Illinois, Ohio, and Michigan do have a process, officials there are pressing for changes so that police departments would be required to report misconduct, and so that officers could be suspended or stripped of licenses for violating the rules, just like doctors or lawyers. It's such a common sense remedy that we do for other occupations that licensing removal is a standard for part of the package. So why not for policing? Said Roger Goldman, a law professor at St. Louis University Law School who has researched police licensing for 40 years. Fast-moving Massachusetts. Massachusetts could get a law enforcement decertification law on the books by August. Legislators there are considering two bills. One, introduced by the governor, would institute a committee of police and civilians, half of whom would be people of color, to handle police misconduct cases and decertify when warranted. The murder in Minneapolis at the hands of police made clear that now is the time to get this done, said Governor Charlie Baker in a June 17th news conference. A bill introduced in Massachusetts Senate would go further than the governor by creating a certification program for police, but hand the responsibility of certification and decertification to a panel made up of community members, and require that all police receive education on the history of slavery, lynching, and racism. The Senate bill, backed by Karen Spiegel and Senate Minority Leader Bruce Tarr, is likely to quickly pass the Senate, but its boldest policies are just as likely to be softened by the House and Governor in final compromise bill. Legislative leaders said they intend to get legislation to the governor's desk before their scheduled July 31st adjournment. There is no bill we can write to replace generations of work needed to root out racism, but the bill is a vital first step, said Sen. Sonia Chong-Diaz, who led the drafting of the bill. With this legislation, we can put in place structures that force institutions to respond to incidents of injustice with vigor rather than silence and complicity. We can create a shift in law enforcement towards prevention and de-escalation, and we can start to reprioritize public safety funding away from criminalization and into community investment. California Attorney General Xavier Barcelona has called for similar legislation, as has New Jersey Attorney General Guber Grewal. I find it incomprehensible that states don't have a vigorous system for certifying and decertifying. Michael Scott, Arizona State University criminology professor and former police chief in Lauderhill, Florida, said in an interview, "To be effective, a licensing regime must have a degree of independence, a degree of proactivity, and a degree of standards that will be in fact enforced," Scott said. DeWine, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, and Michigan Attorney General Danny Nessel have urged legislators in their states to address what research Goldman calls wandering officers. Those shown the door by one law enforcement agency who get new badges elsewhere, either because the new jurisdiction overlooked past performance or failed to discover the prior misconduct. In all three of those states, licensing regimes generally require a criminal conviction in order to have a license revoked. On the other side of the spectrum are Florida and Georgia, which together conducted half of the decertifications in the U.S. In 2015, the most recent year covered by an analysis by Seattle University professor Matthew Hickman. Even with rigorous licensing procedures, Scott said that when he was a police chief, it took time and effort to weed out problematic recruits when they previously worked in other states. As states consider changing their police licensing regimes, one of the factors to watch will be how the new requirements would mesh with, or conflict with, collective bargaining agreements between police unions and local departments. In general, union contracts can limit officer interrogations after alleged misconduct, purge police disciplinary records, limit the length of misconduct investigations, and set up diminished misconduct penalties through arbitration, according to a 2017 Duke Law Journal article analyzing 178 police union collective bargaining agreements. The collective bargaining agreements make it virtually impossible to discipline bad actors and also give officers accused of misconduct abilities and overworkers received. John Reichs, Director of National Litigation and General Counsel for the Goldwater Institute, said in an interview, and they receive representation from the union at taxpayer expense. The taxpayer is footing the bill to keep bad actors in the force. The Fraternal Order of Police, the National Association of Police Officers, and the International Association of Chiefs of Police didn't return requests for comment. However, unions representing police in 3 large California cities, San Francisco, San Jose, and Los Angeles, purchased newspaper ads last month advocating, among other things, decertification of police officers fired for gross misconduct. Among the recommendations addressing wandering officer syndrome by starting a national database of former police officers who were fired for gross misconduct. We must do more to make sure that officers who lack the professionalism and who show racial bias, who are biased, are not wearing a badge, DeWine said. It's time for us to get these things done. So that's the article. Setting up proper certification procedures to licensed police officers and having the certifications have teeth and be able to decertify the officers for any misconduct or disciplinary reasons at the licensing body's discretion is a key thing needed to do in order to solve the problems with policing. So that's it for the article, and I decided to read the article to give you further elaboration on some of these measures that I'm proposing, and that's it for the video.